Headline inflation to slide to 21.85% in March 2023. African Development Bank grants $525,000 for Africa FinTech Hub project. Plus oil steady notches third weekly gain after shock OPEC Plus cuts. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Musa Bakar, your guide. Let's bring you up to speed with business development. The African Development Bank has set aside $525,000 grant for the establishment of an African FinTech Hub, which is an online portal that will provide a one-stop shop for all FinTech activities for the continent. This comes as the bank signs the grant agreement with the Africa FinTech Network for the project. Justin Bem Oyi reports.
With the pens inking the papers, the journey for the Africa FinTech Hub project has begun. This activates a grant support for the project to be executed by the Africa FinTech Network, AFN. The Africa Development Bank, AFDB, is doling out $525,000 here to support the operationalization of the online digital hub to serve as a repository of knowledge for fintech entities across the continent and globally.
The more digitalized we are, the more efficient we are, the more competitive we are, the more we have access to markets, both for products and also inputs. All in all, it will help to drive a more inclusive and competitive societies.
The grant is funded by the Africa Digital Financial Inclusion Facility, ADFI, launched by AFDB, together with its partners.
This will give us a lot of resources to be able to reach out to all the African countries and can bring the best out of them and expose them to the world. And the transformation thing they will be doing will help a lot in developing the African economy, the economy of the different countries.
Fintechs provide powerful, readily available and effective digital financial solutions to help bridge the financial inclusion gap. In Abuja, Justin Bem.
Aligned with the United Nations Declaration of the year 2023 as the International Year of the Millet, Nigeria is set to join the trend with the release of a biofortified pearl millet seed produced by a local farmer in Kano under the guidance of Harvest Plus Research Institute. The Chakti millet is believed to enhance the attainment of healthy and wealthy production among the farming communities in Nigeria. Yohannesu Hassan has details.
Chakti millet is very wonderful to the people, very close to me.
Testimony by Ya'ura Botattarawa, a farmer from Dawakin Tofa local government area of Kano, attests to the growing acceptance and brighter prospect of the biofortified millet among farmers. This gathering of researchers, farmers and journalists is to formally release the Chakti millet, which is proven to be drought-resistant and early maturing with yield expectancy of 3.5 tons per hectare and above all, contains basic nutrients for a nutritive diet.
Nigeria spends about $1.5 billion every year to import vitamins and micronutrients especially among the lactating mothers and the stunted children.
The emphasis from yield has shifted to biofortification. That means we are putting in micronutrients and other essential nutrients.
Now we're going to work with private seed companies. We're going to support them with early generation seeds. We're going to provide them technical training.
Apart from its nutritive value to humans, Chakti millet residues also contains nutrients that serve as an excellent feed for livestock. Farmers like Yao, whose farm was used as a trial plot, may soon start smiling to the bank as his certified seeds are ready for sale to his co-farmers. In Kano, Yahana Sahasa.
The equities market in Nigeria retains its position in the world's top return chart at the end of the first quarter of 2023. This is as investors in Nigeria recorded net capital gains of more than 1.62 trillion naira in the first quarter of the year. With 3 consecutive years of bullish rally, market analysts say the first quarter of 2023 performance further strengthened the outlook for the Nigerian equities. Well, one of such analysts is Paul Uzum, who joins us from Lagos to look at the performance of the market and projections for the coming quarters. You're welcome to Business Express, Mr. Uzum.
Yeah, thank you.
How's Lagos this afternoon?
Yeah, it's bright, sunny, and it's a warm day.
And how's the stock market?
Yeah, today is a public holiday.
Okay.
So the market closed yesterday, and our year-to-date return yesterday moderated further to 3.4%. Though the market had gained as at the end of last quarter, which was the end of March, the market had gained as much as 5.11%, which was one of the best performance among several markets across the globe. However, that performance had dipped within the last 1 week due to fall in price entered Africa. You know, if we look at what happened in markets in the first quarter, there were several factors that shaped market performance, especially in Nigeria. One of which was the results that were coming out from companies. We had several companies that were releasing their full year results, and the market was reacting to that. And market was also reacting to expectations of separate results that was going to come out. Notably, good results, sound performance from the banks, sound performance from industrial goods companies like Dangote Cement, Lafarge Africa, Boa Cement, and we also had sound performance from companies like NTA. And those were the companies that really drove the market performance in first quarter. Then also expectations of there being news all over the media of the incoming deregulation of the downstream sectors. So there was many investors have taken position in oil and gas sectors. So there was a lot of attraction in companies like Total, Conway, MRS, Wando. Those were the prime drivers of the market activities in that first quarter. Moreover, the market would have done much better than that if not for things like, if not for the election, the fears concerning the election. You know, we in Nigeria here, we have what we call the political risk. Anytime we have election approaching, the risk of transition from one government to another usually increases the fears among investors. So if not for the fact that we had an election here within the first quarter, the market would have done much better than that.
Okay. But what factors have, I mean, can you maybe tell us the factors that have made the market somehow resilient?
Yeah, the good numbers, despite the rising political risk, the good numbers, the strong numbers coming from companies, and the expectations of what is coming after the election. Now we have a president-elect who we know to be a pro-market person. That's the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We expect that he's going to implement a lot of reforms. Talked about the regulation of the downstream sector. We expect things like harmonization of exchange rates. So these are things that are expected to come with the new government, and because of that, many investors are already taking positions, anticipating that we expect we'll start having a higher GDP growth rate than the traditional 3% we've seen in recent years. So we anticipate that GDP growth rate will increase to as much as maybe 5% in maybe a couple of, in the next 1 to 3 years. We'll start seeing the way it used to be maybe about a decade ago. Because of that expectation, many investors are already taking positions in the market, in anticipation of a better macroeconomic conditions. One issue we've had in the market in recent times has been decreased level of liquidity in the markets. And the reason is that due to the dual exchange rate regime we have a wide gap disparity between the parallel exchange rates and the official exchange rates. The official exchange rate is going for about 460 naira per dollar. The black market is going for about 760 naira to a dollar. So because of that, we have foreign portfolio investors who usually, before now, a key component of these activities in the market, they drive activities in the market. They used to do as much as between 50 and 60% of the market. Those class of investors are not participating in the market. And the reason is that for the past 1-2 years, they're not able to repatriate their dividends. They earn dividends, they can't take their dividends out. They sell shares, they cannot take their shares out. So the expectations now is that with the changes that are going to come with the incoming government, once they start addressing this, bringing these economic reforms, the regulation of the downstream sector, harmonization of exchange rates, you have one single exchange rate, there's no more disparity between the official and black market rates. These guys will come back again. They'll come back to buy equities again, and that will mean strong performance for the markets.
Okay, let's look at, let's review the first 3 months. Well, the first 3 months of the year witnessed cash crunch brought about by the CBN cashless policy. Did that affect the performance of the NGS Consumer Goods Index, or is it other indices, or was it the whole market resilience?
For the cash, the way the market is at the moment is that cashless or no cashless policy, activities will still have increased level of activities. I always give an example. I draw an example to what happened in COVID year, during the year you had a lockdown, that 2020. The market reported almost 48% return that year. That's the year 2020. So the market is driven by IT. People trade from home, so cashless or not cashless, people are able to see trade. The cashless policy will affect the markets will be the Q1 numbers that we'll be seeing. So several companies, especially companies in the consumer goods, industrial goods that deal on day-to-day sales in cash transactions, we expect such companies to be affected by the cashless policy, because in the month of February and March, you had reduced level of transactions in the economy, you had decreased velocity of money. So you will see that in the Q1 numbers of many companies, which will come at the end of April. That will affect companies in the industrial goods sector and consumer goods sector that depend on daily sales. However, we don't expect it to have any impact on the banks. We don't expect it to have any impact on industrial goods and perhaps the agricultural sector and telecom. So in all, the net on net, we think that the year will still be a good year.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this week. Last 2 days before the public holiday, we've seen the market turn out somehow negative. What's the sentiment in the market?
The way the market functions is that there's this competition for fund between the equity markets and the fixed income markets, notably the money markets. The last Treasury bill auction by a central bank, the closing rates for 1 year Treasury bill closed as high as 14.74%.
Yeah.
14.74%, and that means that the money market has become more attractive again, and you see a lot of investors who are making a switch temporary, though we think it's temporary. You see investors who are making a switch from the equity markets to take advantage of the high yield environment in the money markets. So that is what moderated the positive reaction of markets to the good, strong numbers that were coming from many companies. We've seen many companies, not only the banks that have shown resilience over the years, despite the tough economic conditions, they posting stronger numbers. You see UBA, Zenith Bank posting the best dividend we've ever seen from as much as 20 kobo. That's the highest they've ever paid. UBA doing the same thing, 1 naira 10 kobo. It's final dividend of 90 kobo. So we are seeing strong numbers coming from companies, posting numbers that we've never seen before. So market is smart investors are cashing into it, taking advantage of those in expectation that we're going to have a good year post transition.
Okay, in this second quarter, what do you expect investors' sentiments to be? And what do you also hope to see in the long run?
Yeah, in this quarter, all eyes are on what the incoming government is going to do. I know one policy trucks that everybody has been watching out for is the regulation of the downstream sector. Based on the plans of the government, we expect that the regulation would have taken place at the beginning of June. So once everybody starts saying that we start moving towards that light, you see investors really taking positions. Notably, in the oil and gas sector, is going to explode. You know, the last administration, that's the current administration, to be specific, the Buhari's administration, one of the policy trusts was the agricultural sector. What we saw there was policies that favored agricultural companies, and if we narrow it down to the stock markets, Okomo and Presco, both stocks did over 200 between 200 and 300% return over the last 8 years. So it's going to be like that for the oil and gas sector. I give examples, companies like Total that is already doing well, companies like Konoye that is already doing well. Total for the last 2 years, we've seen the company posting as much as 48 naira earnings per share and paying, this last year they're paying, this year, right now they're paying about 25 naira dividends. Konoye, strong numbers, about 8 naira earnings per share. So you're going to see a lot of activities in the oil and gas sector because they're going to start posting very impressive numbers. And investors are taking positions on that and taking a bet that we'll have an explosion in this sector, as well as the banks. A cashless policy means that, what cashless policy means is that banks will have more activities, you have more people doing POS, doing transfers, and they have more liquidity to play around with. And we expect to see stronger numbers from the banks. We expect that the telecom sector will also do very well. However, this cashless policy will just have a negative effect just on the consumer goods and perhaps industrial goods sector in the short term. It will just be a short-term effect. In the long run, the economy will get out of.
Okay, before I let you go, just briefly, the Nigerian Exchange Limited said it will be using listings to meet strategies and improve the market. How have you seen that play out so far, and what do you expect in terms of listings before the year ends?
Oh, well, we've not seen significant number of listings over the last 10 years, just maybe a couple of them that have come in. We've not seen, maybe say for companies like NTA and NTA, then that came to the market in the past maybe 5 years. Though this year, between this year and next year, we expect to start seeing maybe renewed increase in number of listed companies, especially when market activities pick up, when we have an harmonized exchange regime, which start attracting the inflow of FPIs, foreign portfolio investors back to Nigeria. We expect to see that Dangote Refinery, when it kickstarts operation fully, maybe perhaps before the end of the year, that the company will start taking off listing in the markets. So once the company comes, we expect similar companies, other companies, Mozilla refineries that are coming on board to start seeking listing. And primarily, when activities in the markets returns to a level wherein you have increased level of participation of foreign portfolio investors. At the end, as it is today, foreign portfolio investors are doing just about 12 to 15% of the market. Before now, if you take let's say 5 years back, they were doing as much as 50%. Once the policies from the new government start coming in place, that has capacity to attract these foreign property investors back to the market, then you see many listed companies running to the market to get listed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul Uzob. It's always a pleasure having you on the program.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now moving on, let's now take a look at global market update with Bosidavel.
Investors will be looking ahead to the U.S. non-farm payrolls report on Friday, which will help determine the path ahead for the Federal Reserve. It follows this week's report, which showed U.S. private payrolls grew less than expected in March. Markets in Europe were closed Friday in commemoration of Easter holiday. However, European stock market closed higher on Thursday ahead of the 4-day Easter weekend. Stocks in Asia traded higher on Friday in a muted session as most markets are closed for a holiday in the wider Asia-Pacific region. The Nikkei 225 in Japan traded down at 1.22% to close 27,472.63. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite was 0.00% higher at 3,312.65, and the Hang Seng Index also rose 0.12% to close at 20,296.34. U.S. tech stocks lifted the S&P 500 into the green Thursday as the market wrapped up the short trading week on a higher note despite signs of a weakening labor market. Dow Jones Industrial Average inched 4 points higher to 33,660 after losing more than 150 points at its session low, while Nasdaq closed red. Most African markets remained closed in commemoration of Good Friday. Boss Able, Business Express.
International Monetary Fund said global growth remains low amid debt concerns, war and inflation. The challenges to the global economy and slow economic growth will continue this year, says IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva during her traditional curtain raiser speech before the opening of the IMF and World Bank spring meetings. She anticipated a 3% growth this year, below 3.4% last year. For the poorest countries, the IMF sees higher debt payments and lower demands for what they export. This could fuel further hunger and poverty increases. 60% of low-income countries and a quarter of emerging economies are at or near debt crisis. Since February, the IMF initiated, alongside the Indian presidency of the G20 and the World Bank, a global sovereign debt roundtable to resolve disagreements that stall debt relief processes. Georgieva called for donor countries to address funding shortfalls so the IMF IMF can maintain capacity to provide interest-free loans to the poorest members. As geopolitical tension rise, companies and policymakers are increasingly looking at strategies to make supply chains more resilient by moving production home or to trusted countries. The U.S. Treasury Secretary argued that firms should move towards the friendshoring of supply chains. The European Commission proposed the Net Zero Industry Act to counter the subsidies in the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, and China aims to replace imported technology with local alternatives to depend less on geopolitical rivals. These examples highlight the rising trends of geoeconomic fragmentation. Analysis of the impact on foreign direct investment shows that such flows have been characterized by divergent patterns across host countries, particularly in strategic sectors like semiconductors. These trends also indicate that if geopolitical tensions continue to intensify and countries further diverge along geopolitical fault lines, FDI, or foreign direct investment, may become even more concentrated within blocks of aligned countries. Oil prices were little change on Thursday but posted a third weekly gain as markets weigh further production cuts targeted by OPEC Plus and falling U.S. oil inventories against fears about the global economic outlook. Brent crude settled down 13 cents or 0.2% at $84.86 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude closed 14 cents or 0.2% lower at $80.47. However, there was no trading on the Good Friday holiday. Let's now see prices of other commodities in the global market. Well, that's it. Business Express returns Monday at 3 p.m. I am Musa Bokar. Thanks for your company.